Welcome to 20 Minutes on Ice, powered by the Garage Door Sports Network. I'm your host, Ryan, and with me as always in the co-host position is Nick. We've got a great show coming up for you, so let's get right to our opening face-off. Today on 20 Minutes, we're going to be looking at the qualifying series and the round robin for the Eastern Conference. There's 4 qualifying series between the 5th to 12 seeded teams. And then, of course, we got the round robin between the top 4 seeded teams, and they're playing under 2 sets of different rules. So it's really simple and easy to follow. We'll be giving our previews, talking about what each team is going to bring to the table. And of course, you can't do that without providing your predictions. So that will be coming up at the conclusion of each series that we go through. And then we're going to hit the randomizer and see what it comes up with for our final segment in the show. And to join me in all of this complete extravaganza of fun, we have Nick McVicker. Nick, how's it going?
I'm good, man. It's been a bit of a hectic week in and around the McVicker household, but I'm here. I'm ready to go. Rocking the Colorado jersey this week because we're not talking Western Conference, so it's not a bias.
You were a little hesitant last week to wear the Colorado jersey?
No, I wore the Arenas jersey, so I wasn't biased for that week either. It's a good balance, okay? So, let's just leave it at that.
You're showing your colors, but not outwardly showing your colors.
Well, not when we're talking about those specific conferences. That's just not fair.
Well, we're going to be talking about the Penguins today, and I'm wearing my Winter Classic Penguins jersey from 2011.
And last week you wore a Western Conference team, so I mean, you're keeping tradition too.
I wore the Ducks, who are going to be off for by the end of it. They're going to be off for 10 months. How awful will that be? I mean, we're hearing that perhaps there's going to be some sort of exhibition games just for Senators and Red Wings and Sabres and Ducks and Kings and whoever. Unless you're a fan of those teams, who is going to watch that? It's the losers tournament.
Yeah. Why would you? And first of all, why would they host that? There's no point to that. That's just asking for more COVID positives, but whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a secondary issue. Like that's just, there's a whole other episode to talk about that. So that's a whole nother
Let's
can
get back.
But yeah, so we got 4 qualifying series in the round robin to look at. So let's get right into it. Starting off with 5 versus 12, Pittsburgh Penguins against the Montreal Canadiens. Let's look at Pittsburgh and what they bring to the table, and that is a whole pantload of goal scoring.
Yeah. But it's not as much as I thought when I was looking at the stats. Like, if you actually look at it, they're middle of the league in stats, roughly, like 13th.
They're on the higher end of goals for.
Yeah, because how many do they have?
221. Okay, so let's just put this right out there. If you were listening last week, you may have heard some stats and then seen some stats. So if you're looking at standings, those include the shootout goals, which if you win, you get a goals for, and if you lose, you get a goals against. But if you go to any other website, most other websites, and you look up team stats, they don't include the shootout goals. So that's where some of the discrepancies come in. But
okay, which ones are we using? Are we using the shootout goals, or are we using the ones without?
For the most part, we will not include the shootout goals. So if you're looking at Pittsburgh, 221. Crosby 16, Malkin 25, Russ 27, Gensel, who's going to be back, had 20 in 39 games.
Right.
So to me, I mean, they're a high offense team, and I
get that. I was surprised that they weren't as high as I thought. Like having those 4 for sure, I was like, oh, they're going to be top 10 easily. They were, if you were including the shootout goals, they were 13th in the league, which sounds ridiculous to me with those high end powered players at the top of your lineup. Like I just thought they would be like 8th. I don't know, like 8th or 7th was the range that I thought they would be in. So for me, it's a little surprising. But Brian Rust had an unbelievable year with 27 goals. Like, 27? Did anyone expect that from him?
When I looked it up, I was like, Brian Rust. I knew he was a name. Like I knew he could get something done out there. But 27 goals. I knew he had equipment, and they invited him to every game. But 27 goals.
I knew he showed up, sort of thing.
27 goals caught me off guard. On the other side of center ice, Montreal doesn't seem to be able to put the puck in the net. All year, heard a lot of, the secondary scoring has gone missing. They just can't find ways to put the puck in the net. And for me, the only thing that Montreal brings to this series is Carey Price, and he can absolutely steal them the series.
I agree 100%. If you look at their goals for between the two teams, it's 13 goal difference, regardless really of how you do it. If you look at the goals against, I'm pretty sure it's pretty close to the same thing. Montreal is at 220 and Pittsburgh's at
196.
196. So in that aspect, you're looking at, okay, Price probably faces a lot more shots.
He's definitely getting
that Montreal team is bad. They shouldn't be in a playoff position.
No, they're lucky to be here. They benefited from the situation.
So basically, they're playing with house money at this point. And you have a goalie who has the ability to get hot and get hot for a long stretch in Carey Price. If he decides to stand on his head and be the Carey Price that he could potentially be and has been in the past, this could be a fun series. If Carey Price is above average to good, Montreal gets wiped across the floor. It's not even close, especially with the fact that Domi might not even be playing.
Yeah, and if we're going to give opinions, he shouldn't be playing. Now, it's his career. It's his life. He's going to make his own decision.
To be fair, none of them should be playing. But, hey, what do we know?
And Nick just throws it right out there. But I can't help but somewhat agree with you there. It's okay to I've seen a lot of tweets. It's okay to think that and also be happy at the same time. That hockey's coming back, so that's fine. But if we look down the other end of the rink, in the Pittsburgh net, they kind of have a decision to make. They could go with Matt Murray, who has 2 Stanley Cups, and he has the experience, but his numbers were not as good as Tristan Jarry. Just as per example, save percentage, Jarry 921, Matt Murray 899. So who do you go with?
Goals against Jarry beat him in goals against too. Go ahead, read it.
0.4 of a goal. Jarry 243, Murray 287. I'm gonna lean with the recency bias, and I would start Jarry in this one.
It's what Pittsburgh does. Think about it. When there was the Murray and Fleury, they went with Murray because they wanted him to succeed. Well, guess what? You're about to have the exact same thing a year from now with Seattle coming in.
Yeah.
So now they have to see whether or not Jarry can play in a playoff, because this playoff is a crapshoot. This year, no, it is. But it's not a bad thing. You get the chance to experiment for teams that have never been in a playoff position like this. Montreal should not be here. New York should not be here, right? They get a chance to put their young players who are trying to get to the playoffs in a playoff role.
Yeah.
Well, this play-in series might be the perfect opportunity for the Penguins to see, hey, Jarry, you think you can handle the playoffs? Go for it.
And I think the only thing that could possibly scare them is the fact that they may feel they need to match Price at the other end. And that may lead them to Matt Murray and the playoff experience, because we've seen that come time and time again in the playoffs.
That is possible, and I will give you that. But you look at the series, and Pittsburgh won the season series 2-1, right? They have Montreal. They know how to beat Montreal, and Montreal might be shorthanded, as we mentioned. So now's the time. You give him a chance, and he deserves it. He earned it this year. He tied Murray with wins. They both had 20 wins, and Jarry played less games.
Well, let's go to our predictions here. Pittsburgh and Montreal qualifying series, best of 5 series. How's it going to happen, Nick?
I would like to say Montreal, Carey Price steals a game, but I have zero faith in the Canadiens, especially if Domi's not playing. He is their leader, and he's shown it this year. If he's not playing and Price isn't standing on his head looking like a god in net, it's 3-0 Pittsburgh.
I was going to say that, but I'll give Price some credit. I think he can take – it's almost like that first game, right? Everyone's dipping their feet in, but if Price is ready to go, Montreal could take that first game. But I have Pittsburgh in 4, so I think we're agreeing that Pittsburgh takes this series and handily. So let's move on to 6 versus 11. The Carolina Hurricanes.
I love this series
against the New York Rangers. See, Carolina is the most beige paint ever. I just completely ignore them. I always have. It's a bias. It's a complete bias. There's no logical reason. Nothing about the Carolina Hurricanes excites me here. But The one stat I always like to focus on is the goals against, team defense. It's huge for me in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
And then I'll look at goals for versus goals against. Carolina can put the puck in the net. 217 goals for this season. But even more impressive than that, only 193 against. It's a 24 difference. I kind of like that about Carolina.
I do too. And I am the complete opposite of you. I actually like Carolina. I've liked them since that long playoff run they had when I was a kid, because I was a kid and it left an impression on me.
So which one? 06, 02?
06.
Okay.
06.
All right.
06. I loved that. And I know someone who works down in Carolina with the Hurricanes, broadcasting their games. So I try to watch the games mostly because I'm trying to watch how he's doing the broadcasts, but that's a whole nother issue. Carolina is a team that is, like, in my head, one or two pieces away from being a legit title contender. And I know that sounds really crazy to a lot of fans, but if you look at their roster is built with good depth, scoring up front. Defense is one of the best six, I think, in the league. I would say top 5 defense core in the league. Really, they're just missing a top goaltender. And I'm not talking like Mrazek's a good goaltender. Don't get me wrong. Reimer's a good goaltender. They're not going to blow you out of the water. They're not going to do anything crazy, and that's the problem. They need a true number one, like Freddie Anderson, Carey Price, like one of those guys, a true number one, and they could be an elite team in the league.
And I don't know if they're willing to pay for that, so they're happy to go with.
They have the cap space.
Yeah, but are they willing to use it, right? As a lower budget team, so
that's the question, and that could cost them. But they've put themselves in a position the last couple of years to be a competitive team in the playoffs. And you look at the stats, and as you mentioned, 24 goal differential is massive. That's incredible.
And if you look at the Rangers crease, it's crowded. 3 goalie situation. Common belief is that they would like Lundqvist to move on, and Henrik doesn't want to move on, and that's fine. He signed a contract, and the team signed him to that contract, and that's what they agreed upon. But who else do they have? Grigoriev and Shesterkin. I butchered those names, but it's a crowded situation there, and it's a really tricky situation. They're walking on eggshells with Lundqvist. Are they going to upset him if they don't start him? But if they want him gone, maybe they don't care if they don't start him in the playoffs. So
I don't think he would be upset. He doesn't seem like the player who would get all pissy because he's not starting. Honestly, if you're picking a starter, it's Georgiev. That's who it should be. He had the most wins. He had a really good year before he got hurt, and then he came back and played really well as well. Shesterkin had a solid year as well. A 252 goals against average is nothing to scoff at. Don't get me wrong. I was more surprised with their offense, the Rangers, than the goaltending situation. I kind of knew the goaltending situation was going to be a gong show this year. You just look at that roster, and Lundqvist is older. Like, it was just bound to happen.
Yeah.
But Mika Zibanejad leading your team with 41 goals.
And he was hot coming in. Well, when they paused the season, and that means nothing right now. But
that means nothing.
You hope he can turn. They'll need him to turn it on. For the playoffs. They 233 goals on the season.
Not a joke.
Yeah. So that's a high number league wide. Like we just talked about Pittsburgh being at 221 previously. So the Rangers are at 223. Another stat that I look at, combine the standings of the power play and PK, and that gets your true standings. I believe that's the Scotty Bowman method. And this is where Carolina got me. 8th in the league on power play, 4th on penalty kill.
That's the one that gets me. It's the PK.
Yeah, so that's a 12. If you look at the Rangers, 7th on the PK or on the PP, so that's right there with the Hurricanes. 23rd on the PK, and for me, that's not going to get it done. No. So I'm surprising myself, but everything here says Carolina for me. I'm taking Carolina in 3.
I'm going to totally screw with you with one stat. Are you ready?
Hit me.
The Rangers swept the season series 4-0 this year against Carolina.
Yes, they did, and it was only 9 goals against or something in those games, wasn't it?
Yeah, something ridiculous.
Yeah, they took care of Carolina.
As I say that, I'm still picking Carolina in 4. I just think the team is too deep not to beat this Rangers team who while they have a couple senior pieces, most of the team is pretty young. And I think that this is going to be their first time really going through a playoff run. So this Carolina team, I just think, is better.
And as we go through all this, I said it last week, and I know Nick echoes the sentiments, but this is just going to be a completely new season, unprecedented situation. How are these teams going to react to the break? Who's going to grow? It's longer than an off season. How is that going to affect the teams? So this completely becomes a crapshoot. It's hard to base any of this information on what they did at the end of the season. And so we're not really going to know how these teams are going to perform and what to properly think of these teams until we see them after game 1 and game 2.
Exactly.
And how they perform in that. Everyone it looks like one exhibition game. So,
and whoever actually plays, because there's still chances that players are going to drop out, or
100%.
Players like Domi, we mentioned in the Montreal series. Kako might have to sit out because he is also diabetic as well. There's chances that we're not going to see full rosters. So we're going off of the fact of the players that we know are in, and we're kind of just basing it off that.
And we're going to learn of those players who are unfit to play. That's driving me nuts. That is driving me.
It's gonna be fun.
It's just leading to speculation, but we're going to come right back. We'll cover the other 2 series in the Eastern Conference and, of course, get to that exciting round-robin action between the top 4 teams. The New York Islanders, the Florida Panthers.
The other New York team.
It's, again, not an entirely exciting series here, but it's happening. It's a repeat of 2016. This is maybe the series that you throw on for the 2:00 in the afternoon game, the 4:00 in the afternoon game, where people still have to focus on work. So this can just be noise in the background. But these are 2 teams who kind of stumbled into the playoffs when the season was put on pause. The Islanders, who are a good defensive team and are supposed to be a good defensive team, can't seem to put it together offensively. And the Panthers,
that's an understatement.
The Panthers, who are supposed to be chasing the Maple Leafs, couldn't string together enough wins to make it any kind of a reasonable race. So 2 teams who find themselves fortunate to be in the situation that they are.
100%, and this is my least likely to watch series. Like I will probably watch most of it because I'm not doing a whole lot.
We're home, so what else
but this is literally the series that I could care less about. All 4 series in the West, I'm sort of interested in. There's something for me in each one. The other 3 series in the East, I'm sort of interested in or very interested in. This one I could care less.
Yeah,
I really don't care.
I'd rather track the round robin than.
I'm interested in the round robin. I am very interested in the round robin. This doesn't interest me. But you're right. And you mentioned that the Islanders are a very good defensive team, and they are. They only gave up 190 goals this year.
And that was tied for fifth in the NHL.
Outscore them. They didn't outscore that. That's the problem. They only scored 189.
Which is low.
That ain't going to cut it.
Yeah,
that ain't going to cut it.
So that's...
when your leading goal scorer only has 26 goals... Brock Nelson, and don't get me wrong, Brock Nelson's a very good player, and he's shown it the last couple of years. Not good enough. The leading power play point getter had 12. Power play points, not goals.
Just points.
Power play points is 12. That's not going to cut it.
Well, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
All right. Well, I was going to look at the other side then. Let's look at penalty killing, because I mentioned I'll lean towards the defensive aspect of the game.
Right.
The Islanders, 80.7, right in the middle of the pack, 15th on the PK. Florida, even worse, 78.5, and that is 20th in the league. This could be a run and gun. I'm not going to say a high scoring series. This will be a series full of mistakes, and this is a pick 'em. And all that chaos, all that mayhem, and I'm still not overly interested about it.
I have zero interest. You look on the other side. I was talking about the Islanders before. Let's look on the Florida side. They were 28th in goals against this year. That is not good.
No.
Sorry, 27th. Giving up 224 goals.
That's not going to cut it. No,
but the difference is they can score because they put in 228 as opposed to the 189 that the Islanders have.
Yeah.
And their top scorer is a top scorer. They had Jonathan Huberdeau put up 78 points this year.
He's such an
55
underrated
assists.
Player. That guy's a
Mike
superstar.
Hoffman had 29 goals. Jonathan Huberdeau, remember a couple years ago when everyone was saying he was a bust?
Yeah, and that's because he was just hidden in Florida. He was just working on it.
No, the problem is that he had zero support staff.
Well, yeah.
Right? And now they've given him a couple players in like Mike Hoffman, Alex Barkov, like a couple of really good pieces. And look, the guy put up 78 points this year.
I'll take Florida in this series, and it's only because I like their chances of turning it around better than I do the Islanders. And the one thing, Bobrovsky. If he can all of a sudden show up and be Bobrovsky, then Florida definitely has a chance. But again, it's a pick 'em. I will take Florida in 5, but that's just because I like Florida's chances better of waking up and turning it around than I do the Islanders.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm actually going to say Florida in 4, and it comes down to what you said in Bobrovsky, and he has the past experience in the playoffs a little bit more than Semyon Varlamov and Thomas Greiss. He's carried a team before, and Florida can score, like as opposed to the Islanders who straight up cannot score. Like they're just not a scoring team. Florida can score, and that when it comes to the playoffs, as good as your defense is, you have to be able to put the puck in the net on a good goaltender, and I just don't see the Islanders doing it enough to get 2 wins.
And a guy like Huberdeau is going to be hopefully licking his chops at the chance to put himself in the conversation of noticeable players in the league. So, and this could be his chance.
He should.
Yeah.
And he should, let's be honest.
Although both these teams should be licking their chops for this chance, but it'll be about who can execute better and perform.
100%.
Okay, here we go, Nick.
Oh, no.
My Maple Leafs. My Maple Leafs and yours. Everybody's favorite team in the whole entire world. If you don't love the Maple Leafs, you're wrong. Going up.
We're from Toronto, just to point that out.
This may be a bit of a Toronto-centric issue here.
No, I'm going to debate this as much as possible, but we'll have fun with it.
Yeah, we're going to get into the Leafs here. I mean, hate on the Leafs. There's outside Toronto Leaf hate, and then there's inside Toronto Leaf hate. So we'll get into the inside Toronto Leaf hate. They're going up against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I mean, you have to like Toronto's talent. You have to like their scoring ability. I like Freddie Anderson, but the numbers weren't there, and the performance wasn't upper tier this year. The one thing, though, that constantly the Leafs did this season is disappoint me. Every time a new challenge came up, a new situation where they could prove themselves and show everybody what they are. It was time to turn it on, and they couldn't do it. And to me, that was the sign of an immature team. And again, the break could have changed that. Maybe they've matured and growing, but I still see this as an immature team that thinks they are going to outskill everybody regardless, even though it hasn't happened before. Maybe Oilers of the 80s, but that's a different situation. But the Leafs are still an immature team, and in the end, I don't think they'll get the job done in this series.
Really?
Well, it'll be close.
Okay.
So I'm giving away my pick off the top here. It's Columbus in 5.
Done.
But
done. Ryan's done. I get to talk the rest of this segment.
Leafs have talent. They're immature.
But see, I can take the same thing and go Columbus's way. Like if you look at Columbus's roster, they have a very, very young roster, much like the Leafs. Difference is they have a little bit more playoff experience because of the run that they had last year, and they've been in the playoffs pretty much every year that the young core has been together. My concern is the goaltending situation, and I'm kind of concerned on both sides because Freddie's never really shown it in the playoffs as good as he has been in regular seasons, both in Anaheim and in Toronto. He hasn't really had the chance behind a good enough team to show it in the playoffs. Like the Leafs bombed out last year to a very good Boston team. It is what it is. You face a good team like that, Freddie's going to get shelled. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
Freddie was 909 save percentage.
Yeah.
For me, I'd like to see that up around 920. And that may be asking a lot, but that's what you need for an upper level goal. 285 goals against average, way too high. But it's Toronto, right?
I agree 100%.
Can't play defense.
You look at the goals for, goals against. Toronto had 237 goals for, which was second in the league, but they had 222 goals against, which puts them down in
25th. And Columbus on the goals against, 183, fourth best in the league, despite a somewhat unclear goalie situation. I believe they're going with Elvis there, but
not a clue. It's going to be Jonas or Elvis. Pick your poison of European.
But obviously they could get it done in some regard because they were fourth in goals against. They're going to be.
I have no problem with the goaltending situation in Columbus, but I'm going to go back to what I said in the previous matchup. The team can't score. They had 180 goals for in the season. They were 3 less than they've given up. The team cannot score. That is not good enough. That puts them tied for 27th in the league.
The way I see it, if they can shut down Toronto, but they're a good defensive unit, so there's a chance that they can.
Agreed.
Toronto is quote unquote easy to score on, so there could be a 2-1, 2-0, 3-1 situation here.
Right. And I get that. But
for
here's
me,
my thing.
Defense wins in the playoffs.
Fair enough. But what happens if they go on the power play or penalty kill? Either way.
Columbus is awful on the power play. 27th this year.
Columbus is absolutely awful. And the Leafs are
if they give
unreal.
The Leafs a chance, tied for 5th in the league.
Don't give them a chance.
No.
Like they're almost at 25% on the power play. Like that's impressive.
Yeah.
23.1 is nothing to scoff at.
And the Leafs were trash on the PK. So just like last year against Boston, don't give Columbus a power play because the Leafs were 77% on the PK. That's awful. 21st in the league.
Right. But I mean, if we're averaging out, like you said, Columbus was 12th on the PK.
Yep.
So 27 and 12th is worse than 5th and 21st.
Yeah. Leafs at 26 points there. 26 Scotty Bowman points, and Columbus at 39 Scotty Bowman points. So I would say it's another toss-up. They both have stats that show they could dominate in certain areas. And, of course, it'll come down to who can dominate in the most areas.
Right.
And for me, it's going to be Columbus.
And my other thing is that the Leafs have a midway through the season hired coach, right? So half of the stats aren't Keefe. Half of the stats are Babcock, right? So you have to play into the fact that they got better defensively after Keefe took over. How much? It's a toss-up, right? I'm taking Toronto in 4. They're also playing at home. This is the same thing that we had the conversation last week about Edmonton playing in their home rink. I don't know how much of a factor it's going to be, but knowing the bench, knowing where the bounces are off the glass, it might play a factor. And
there will be a certain mental comfort to it.
Exactly. So I'm taking Toronto in 4.
Okay, Toronto in 4, Columbus in 5 from me. Let's get to the top 4 seeds now and the round robin. We got Boston, Tampa, Washington, and Philadelphia here. Off the top, I think Boston's stats show that they are a dominant team. But I think the kicker is they are a smart team. So as much as I believe they will come out of the East and they may even win the Stanley Cup this year, they may get to a point where they're just using this round robin to tune themselves up. Try and go for that number 1 seed. But once it's out of place, let's not push ourselves because we know what we're capable of. We know what they can do. And I think they have the experience to be able to turn it on and off.
100%.
They're all business. So I don't know if we can predict where they will finish in this round robin, but I will say they will probably win the East playoffs.
I believe they finished second in the round robin. And the reason is that I think the Lightning are going to come out guns a-blazing to get that number 1 seed because they screwed up being number 1 last year and they're trying to prove a point. and they were trying to get number one again this year, and Boston just dominated the entire season. Tampa has the best goal-scoring team in the entire league. They're actually pretty good defensively, too. They only gave up 194 goals, which...
10th in the league?
It's not bad. It's not Boston. Like, Boston only gave up 167 goals.
Best in the league on goals.
That's ridiculous.
And
but
Tampa,
it's pretty good. Like, you can't say that Tampa was bad defensively. They were 10th in the league in goals against. And then you start looking at, like, power play and stuff like that. Tampa was 5th. Penalty kill. Tampa was
13th.
Tied for 13th with Colorado, who we said was a half-decent penalty kill team last week.
Yeah. I think the stats that really highlight Boston, 2nd in the league on power play, 25.2, and 3rd in the league on PK.
Absolutely.
84.3. Best team for goals against as well.
Absolutely.
Just solid all over. And the way that Tampa Bay was treating the regular season, where they knew it wasn't as important to be the number one seed. It was more important to tune yourself up so that when the playoffs come, you hit the ground running. And that's the way I see Boston kind of treating this round robin.
And that's why
Go ahead.
That's why I agree with you 100% that I don't know if they're going to gun for that number one, but I think Tampa will, because they're trying to prove a point after last year getting swept out of the playoffs. They're going to want to sweep the round robin to show, hey, we're ready to go this year, sort of thing. I said it. You and me talked about this, and I asked you. I thought that the number two seeds going into the playoffs could be the most dangerous in the round robin. Last week, you agreed with me that Colorado might be super dangerous in the West. This week, I'm talking Tampa being super dangerous in the East.
And I could definitely see a situation, lots of situations, where Tampa Bay is that most dangerous team because they are playing for something. They are playing to prove themselves, and they're playing to just erase completely last year. They win this year, and last year is kind of just becomes part of their story rather than part of their legacy.
Absolutely. So, I agree. 100%.
Two teams we're kind of looking over here, Washington and Philadelphia. They are in the round robin, and
they are.
Washington has just as much of a chance to really shock some people. Ovechkin's still on the team. Can't sleep on Washington when they have Ovechkin. They got Holtby in net, Carlson on the blue line, who is probably defenseman of the year, at least offensively speaking. This is a solid team, tied for third in goals for. Not as strong as you may expect on the power play this year. 17th, 19.4%.
Yeah,
I love their PK numbers. 6th in the league, 82.6%. I love that for a team.
You're a PK guy. I always forget.
All defense. I'm all defense. That's what's going to win. But those are some strong numbers from Washington, which make me believe that they could come in and perform extremely well and take that number one seed.
I don't see them taking the number one seed because, as you mentioned, their goaltending situation or their goals against situation isn't what a whole lot of people expected from this Washington team. And I don't know if they're sure who they want to start. And I think that could cost them a little bit in the round robin, just maybe flip-flopping back and forth in game one and game two, not really knowing. But one thing that really, really surprised me looking at the goals for stats is if you look at the top 8. Are you ready for this, Ryan?
Go ahead, Nick.
How many Western Conference teams are there?
In the top 8?
Top 8.
The East takes at least 4 of them because I'm looking at that right in front of me. West, 1. And who is that?
The boys on the jersey, my friend.
The Colorado Avalanche, and that's why we like them.
And they're tied for 3rd with Washington.
And it's funny because
that means
it used to be the Wild West, but now it's the crazy East.
Now it's the defensive West.
Yeah.
But you look at it, you have Tampa number 1, Toronto number 2. Washington is tied for 3rd with Colorado. Then you have the Rangers, the Panthers, the Bruins, and the Flyers. Oh yeah, by the way, the 4 teams in the round robin are all in the top 8 in goals for in the NHL. That's what is going to make these games fun. Obviously, they mean something because they're trying to get the higher seed, but when it comes down to it, you're the higher seed in your first round matchup regardless. 1 through 4, You're going to be the higher seed. It's going to be fun to see how much of it is used to try out different power plays, try out different line combinations to see what fully works, especially for teams that might have a player missing, right? Like if someone doesn't come back or someone decides to opt out last minute, there's different things that could happen. Philadelphia sitting down in the 8th spot is my big surprise, being in the top 4. I didn't see it at the beginning of the year. I have a friend who is a super Flyers fan and could not shut up going into the season about how good the Flyers were. And I'm like, they're good. Don't get me wrong. I think they're a good team. Did I think they were this good? Absolutely not.
No, I didn't. I did not expect this. I thought they were a bubble team, and I thought Giroux was starting to drop off. But I guess as Giroux starts to drop off, which isn't a huge drop off, Couturier is coming up on that arc.
It's a balance.
So, yeah.
But yeah, you look at it, right? Like they were 8th in the league in goals for, and they were 8th in the league in goals against.
Nice balance there, Philadelphia.
But a 36 goal difference.
That's fantastic.
Is huge.
Yeah.
And yes, the one thing is that their goaltender is Carter Hart.
And that's a question mark.
He's young. I wouldn't say he's a question mark as a goaltender. I think he's a good goaltender. But going into his first playoff, that's where the question mark comes in. And how he's going to play in his first set of playoffs. It's almost beneficial that they have this round robin to sort of test him out.
Yeah, absolutely. And he should play all 3 games, whereas the other teams may have a different situation where they have something locked up or something's out of reach, and that's where you may see a backup because they are playing under regular season rules in the round robin. Takes a little bit of the shine off the fact that they'll be going to a shootout and 5-minute 3-on-3 overtime when you have games going on around you that will be going to multiple overtimes play until there's.
But that's the benefit that you don't have to waste the energy, right? Like they earn the top 4 spots, so they don't have to waste the extra energy in this round robin.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's go ahead and cement our picks here. These will be written down in eternity and will be held against the coals to these picks. But I am taking Tampa first, Boston with the 2nd seed, Washington, and then Philly.
Mark me down for the exact same, folks, because that's what I was going to say.
Perfect. For a situation that's going to be potentially very exciting. Our picks are very bone dry boring there. All right, well, I'm getting the signal now, so let's go ahead, hit the randomizer, and see what we're going to be doing today. Okay, today we're going to be doing shoot or pass. It's kind of like a would you rather situation. Okay. So each host is going to be coming up with a would you rather scenario. We're going to ask it to each other, and you have to choose one of the scenarios. No changing the scenarios. You can ask questions about the scenarios, but you absolutely have to choose one of the situations. No sitting on the fence. We are going to have decisions made here. So,
okay.
Nick, do you need time to think of something, or I got something off the top of my head? But do you want to go first, or you want to answer first?
I'll ask first.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
I will ask first. So. Would you like me to give you a specific team to do this for? Because I was going to talk about play-in teams.
Whatever you want to do, Nick. The floor is yours.
You are a play-in team, Ryan, right now. So would you rather have a deep run in this playoffs, but have your star player be hurt for next season? And I'm not saying you could win the cup, okay? But a deep run in this playoffs, but your star player is hurt all of next season, or lose this play-in round and have everyone healthy for a long run next year?
Okay, well, it depends what situation I'm in. So I'm going to put myself in, let's take 2 situations from the East here. I'll put myself in Florida's shoes, okay?
Okay, Florida. Yeah, that's a good one.
Let's say Huberdeau goes down and he's going to miss time next season. I think that run deep into the playoffs will have more benefit for the Panthers than the hurt that will happen at the beginning of next season. And that's because next season.
He's gone next season.
All of next season. This is like a major.
This is an ACL tear or something. He's gone for a year.
I think there's some temptation to take the long playoff run. And that's just because you can't see past the nose at the end of your face. But I think I would have to keep everyone healthy. And just for the sake of some long-term franchise health, I'll take the second situation. Lose out. And keep my players healthy. And then there's also the 12.5% chance of getting that first overall pick too. So
right.
I'll take that upside. Yeah, that's a good one. I did have to think about it. And again, you look at maybe like someone like Montreal. Would a long playoff run they're not going to do anything next year. Let's be honest. Unless there's some
Yeah,
sort
but you lose an entire year of Domi.
Max Domi. You know what? It's Montreal. I don't like the Habs.
Or you lose an entire year of Carey Price.
It's Montreal. See ya. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but like maybe he goes missing on Fantasy Island for a year or something. That's the injury. I don't know. But screw you, Habs. I don't care about you. I don't like you. So maybe that's a good situation for the Habs. But for everyone else, stay healthy and take your shot at it next year. So
Okay.
All right. Here comes my shooter pass situation.
Oh, no.
In both these situations, it's Game 7. Stanley Cup final. That's how far you've gotten. You've earned it.
All right. Go me.
So you can be the goalie who stops a penalty shot in overtime.
Nope.
And you win the Conn Smythe, but your team loses the cup. You can be that guy. Or you can be a fourth liner and you didn't see much ice time. And when overtime hit in this Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final, you're not seeing any ice time. You're not even doing up your chin strap, but your team won the Stanley Cup. Which player are you?
Okay, like obviously a lot of people are going to want to pick the goalie and win the Conn Smythe, and I get that, and I'm okay with that. I played goalie in soccer many times in practice, and I hate it, and it would scare the crap out of me to be in that game. I'd much rather have played all year as a fourth liner and done my bit and got us to this point. And if that was my role and we won the cup, I'm a team player, I would probably go for being a fourth liner and winning the cup.
Your role was to socially distance from the ice. That's your role here.
In the overtime, yes, I got to see 5 minutes, all right? 5 minutes of me in the ice.
4 minutes, 10 seconds. You didn't get that last shift.
4:30, all right? Screw you. I would get 4:30.
All right, so that's...
I'd take fourth line.
Okay, all right. I think, you know what? I think a lot of people would end up going for the cup because how many times are you gonna win the cup?
Well, if I'm a good enough goalie to make a penalty shootout save in overtime in Game 7 and win the Conn Smythe Trophy while losing, I feel like I might be able to get my team back there the next year. But I'm just too terrified to be a goaltender. So
it would be interesting to know what the listeners think about this. So give us a shout out on Twitter at 20 Minutes on Ice. Let us know which situation you're choosing in the Game 7 and also Nick's situation. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll share some of the good answers. So there is the horn. That brings an end to this 20 Minutes on Ice. Be sure to subscribe, like, rate, comment wherever you find this podcast. It really helps us out, and share it with your friends. Share it with someone who needs a hockey podcast in their life, and that is everyone you know. Don't forget about that. So share it with those people. Also be sure to check us out, garagedoorsports.com, under the shows tab, and just follow along wherever you can find 20 Minutes on Ice. Nick and I will be back next week with training camps in full swing. Playoffs about to start. We're going to start looking at some exhibition games and all the storylines that are going on in the hockey world. Thank you for listening. Goodbye, everybody.